chat, where we chat with different, I'm just going to start that one more time because I'm not sure if it caught me at the beginning. So pardon me, everybody. That's the beauty of live. Hello, and welcome to Activate and Thrive and to our weekly Thriving Thursday chat, where we chat with different, beautiful, health-minded people about just various aspects of thriving and wellness and being activated. We run these chats every Thursday at noon East Coast US time on Facebook Live. And then also we put them on Instagram and YouTube after the fact. So however you're watching us today, we're really so happy to have you here. And today we're connecting with a good friend and colleague who's in Spain. So she's 6 hours ahead of us. And I'll let Mia take it from here. I'm Don.
And I'm Mia, and our guest today is Roxan Jurkevich, and she is a New York native and holds Bachelor and Masters degrees in percussion performance with the Juilliard School. She was Principal Percussion and Assistant Principal Timpani with the Orquestra Simfónica de Barcelona y Nacional de Catalunya. How did I do?
Pretty good.
For nearly 30 years, and has performed frequently with the Metropolitan Opera in New York, the Philharmonia Orchestra in London, and many others. She's performed with world-renowned conductors, has played percussion for various Broadway shows, and has premiered solo and chamber works for percussion. During COVID, Roxanne took part in various online video collaborations, the most recent of which can be seen on YouTube, featuring Ringo Starr. Beginning September 2022, Roxanne will be joining the faculty at the brand new Mediterranean Music College in Valencia, Spain, as Associate Professor of Percussion. Now, let's segue a little bit. Fitting fitness in the health sphere. Roxanne is an International Sports Sciences Association certified personal trainer, and she founded the Fit Musician to help musicians prioritize their physical and mental health, at least as much as they do practice their instruments, extending their performing life by increasing energy, focus, and the ability to offer optimal performances every time, with attention to instrument-specific fitness needs. She offers one-on-one fitness training, group coaching presentations at conservatories and music festivals and orchestras, and hosts interviews on her social media channels at various fitness and mental health professionals who are either musicians themselves or specialists who often work with musicians, that they join her there. So, Roxanne.
Welcome.
Welcome.
Thank you so much. And thanks for that lovely introduction.
I didn't botch it up. Can you just share with us a slice of how you got started with your journey as a fit musician? Because we know that you have this extensive background as a percussionist, but how did the fit musician bit start? Was there some seminal life event that led you down this road besides the pandemic?
Yes. Well, first of all, thank you so much for having me today. This is really a lovely honor. And yes, I did have a seminal life event. Just a very brief background, which is I have been studying percussion as long as I can remember. I studied piano and percussion, and I was always pretty athletic as a kid and throughout my life, on and off. I'd like to say on and off athletic, because, sometimes we get lazy. But thanks to being athletic, I was doing CrossFit for a couple of years, and then in 2014, I suffered a pretty gnarly traffic accident here in Spain. I got hit by a taxi driver who ran a red light. So because of this situation, I don't want to say thanks to this, but because of this, I had multiple fractures. I was in the hospital for a long time and all that stuff. It took me a long time to recover. However, I was very grateful because thanks to being somewhat fit before the accident happened, thankfully I was able to recover probably more quickly than someone else who perhaps would not have been in that same physical situation. So I think that there's a lot to be said for preventing further, problems and issues, health problems and issues, by taking care of ourselves on more or less a constant, hopefully a constant period, but at least as much as we can.
Yeah.
And I always wanted to marry fitness and music somehow, but I never really knew how. And then fast forward a few years after my accident and after I had already recovered because of the pandemic, when I started to see, obviously we were all home, we were all online, and I started to see on musicians forums, all of my friends or many of my friends were just like obviously depressed because there was no work, sitting around, drinking more, eating more, not exercising, or not, we weren't able to get out and take walks, many of us. So all of these things converged into this perfect storm of just a bad situation. And I wanted to do something to help people because by this point, because of the accident that I had suffered and because of the amount of time I'd been in the hospital, which was nearly 5 months, and then I couldn't really walk for a long time. I'd had multiple surgeries. I gained quite a lot of weight. So that didn't help me feel good, look good, it didn't help my mood. And by the time the pandemic had begun, I had lost 60 pounds and I felt much better. And I was, I just had more self-esteem. And so I wanted to help my musician friends however I could. And it just came to me one day, this idea and the name, The Fit Musician, just wasn't taken. So I took that domain on, on a website, and anyhow, here we are.
Love it.
Wow.
No.
Well, may I just go ahead?
No, go ahead.
May I just ask one thing based on what you said about after the accident, because you weren't able to be as mobile, you started to gain weight, et cetera, basically losing your state of fitness. Although not by any means everybody is a musician, most people aren't. Everybody would understand wanting to be able to perform in whatever capacity in life you perform at peak. So what was the impact on your performance as a result of just not being able to be as active and fit as you would have liked?
Well, once I was able to get back to playing, right. I mean, music performance, I think that you're asking. Once I was able to get back to playing percussion, and let's not forget, percussion is a very physical instrument.
Quite physical, right.
I mean, all instruments require some level of physicality, obviously, but percussion probably the most of all, only because we are not just sitting down and moving our arms and our fingers or breathing techniques that we're employing.
Well, it takes energy to bang on stuff, right?
It takes energy to bang on stuff. It's also a great release of energy.
Yes.
But it takes energy to move instruments around, sometimes very heavy instruments, which hopefully have wheels, but not always. Not all stages have ramps. I mean, there's a lot of logistics that go into this. Practicing, we're often practicing on our feet. We often have to, as you probably know, Don, well, both of you know, there are certain pieces in the orchestral repertoire where sometimes we have to walk on and off stage to do some off stage things. Or as a percussionist, we just have to walk back and forth on the percussion riser to share instruments with other players. I'll have to play a gong, and then I have to go over there and share the xylophone with someone and come. So there's just a lot of stuff going on. And
you have to be a dancer.
Yeah. And choreography is actually a big part of it, a different sort of choreography, but yes, absolutely. So what was the question?
So the question is, so all those antics that you just described and just performing as a musician, how was that compromised during the time you were not able to be as fit?
Right. Thank you. So I didn't take my ginkgo biloba today, so my memory is, so two things happened. First of all, and probably the biggest one of all, is that I learned to, I always appreciated having my job. I always appreciated having talent, or whatever you want to call it. But I appreciated it. I learned to appreciate it so much more, because when you cannot do that thing that you love doing, and not to mention your livelihood is at stake because you don't know if you're going to recover fully, or almost fully, that really changes the perspective on things. And you really understand, gratitude for when things, if things work out again, and if they come back and you're able to do those things again. It's an amazing realization that, and it's hard to describe in words, but, I think we all grow up basically with a sense of gratitude for what we have. But when you have something that's taken away from you, I like now, like so many people are feeling with the return of theater and the return of live shows. And, I think it's a similar, or maybe the same exact.
Well, I think during these times, many people might understand the sense of something being taken away that you were used to, and learning to have gratitude for that. So that's a great kind of silver lining from the situation that you faced.
Right.
It makes you not take things for granted, because I think when you get to just be in a coasting kind of situation and you're just used to things, then you can easily take things for granted, and then the rug's pulled out from under.
Absolutely. Right. And the other part of the answer to this question, physically, when I went into a practice room for the first time again after the accident, which was probably almost 2 years after the accident, I had I have some stuff here at home. I was able to practice. Thank God, like I did not get fractured from the elbows down. But my humerus was fractured, and that was the only upper body injury, thankfully. But anyway, it took a while to gain mobility and strength again in this arm. It was all on my left side. So going back into a practice room for the first time, I was very pleasantly happy and surprised to find that I could still function the pedals for timpani, so I could tune timpani, and anything that required a pedal, because it was my left side that was fractured on my left leg, some mobility issues in my left ankle and my left knee. So because I have to operate pedals for some instruments like a hi-hat or a vibraphone, even though that's my right foot, so it was just, my biggest concern was like, am I going to be able to play these instruments that require footwork?
Right.
So with all of that, and this program of the Fit Musician, what does that entail? I mean, how did that come into play here as you were recovering, and how did you develop this with others in mind?
Well, part of my recovery, a big part of my recovery, and I'm so fortunate. I mean, if this had to happen, I'm very fortunate it happened in Spain. And I have to say this because, of course, with socialized medicine, I was able to go to physical therapy 5 days a week for 1.5 years.
Wow.
And it was, I can't thank those women enough. They all happen to be women, the physical therapists who took care of me. And, thanks to that, and thanks to the frequency of those exercises. So it's always about exercise or some level of physical movement. I mean, I couldn't actually exercise in any kind of an intense way for quite a long time. And the first time I went back to a gym was about 3 years ago. So for the first 4 years after the accident, I didn't set foot in a gym. And finally, when I went back to the gym, at first I was a bit depressed because there were certain exercises I couldn't really do, or I couldn't do them the way I used to do them. And I needed to make adaptations because of the slight mobility issues. So, but anyway, I got over it rather quickly because thanks to exercise, I had some endorphins kick in and I started to feel better and I started to lose weight. And so, I've accepted whatever changes I've had to make, and I'm, quite happy that I am able to exercise again. And,
right. And so that grew into you wanting to help others to be more fit, to fit fitness in, and to be able to perform specifically for musicians at their peak. So talk
absolutely.
about that process of getting to that.
Absolutely. So, again, I was in a situation where I had a bit more time to dedicate to this because I wasn't working as much as I had been before the accident because of different, let's just call it bureaucratic things going on. So I wasn't working as much, so I had more free time, and I was able to dedicate that time to just looking after myself. I had always sort of, like I said, been active and all that, but I hadn't ever really thought of it as looking after myself. I had never really taken the time to look after myself. And so I did start to do that. And I started to make some changes in the physical realm, in the nutritional realm. And all of that, of course, combined really helped me get to a place where I feel at 52 years of age, I am in the best shape of my life, which is kind of crazy, right?
To be able to say that
great.
after what you've been through, that's really great.
Crazy good. Yeah.
Yeah, crazy good. And so, and then again, when the pandemic happened and people were just obviously very down, needless to say, and for good reason, excuse me, I wanted to do something to help. And so I think that the best way for anyone who either has no current, movement routine in their lives, a lot of people are getting busy suddenly again, either with lots of work or they have small children, who still need help, even though they might be going back to school in person again. So yeah, things have just sort of come roaring back for a lot of people, and people are dealing with that on a logistical level and on a mental level, because coping with this new reality now after the pandemic reality, which was already hard enough to cope with, it's like, thing upon thing to deal with. So I highly recommend that anyone who hasn't really done anything yet and wants to, just start incorporating small changes. And I know it's a cliche, but it's so true. Just one small change at a time, over time will accumulate, and people.
I understand that even just like, it doesn't even have to be strenuous or rigorous. Even just going for a walk has huge benefits, right? If someone can even go for a 15-20-minute walk every day, that makes a difference right there.
We just took part in a conference, and it was all about life is built on the little things.
Yeah.
So, those little things add up the more that we do them, and they have a cumulative impact on our health and well-being.
Yeah, one of the things I wanted to say about this is that, and it's funny, it's been around for a few years now, but all these fitness trackers that exist, the technology that's out there, almost everyone has a smartphone or an Apple Watch or one of these Fitbits or whatever it is. If we start tracking our steps every day, and everyone probably has this in their device, whatever they're using, but a lot of people don't use it or don't pay attention to it. If we start paying attention to the steps we take every day, we really should be taking at least 10,000 steps a day.
That's
but at the very least 7,000 or 8,000 steps a day. As a bare minimum. And when you start tracking your steps and you start thinking you're walking enough, and then you start to realize, oh wow, I'm not walking enough. And we can start tracking our hydration. There are apps for that. We can start tracking how much water we're drinking a day. We should be drinking at least 2 liters a day, if not 3, which is not easy to do. 2 liters a day. The rest of the water we can get through our foods and through other beverages like teas and things like that. Obviously, nutrition trackers are also very helpful. And I know that it's a bit tedious at first. I mean, I thought the same thing, but now that I've been doing it for a while, and you don't have to do it forever, because you start getting a good sense of how many calories you're eating, what your macros are you eating enough protein, all these things. But by tracking ourselves for a while, we really start to get an idea of where we're at. And only then do we know what needs to be tweaked.
Right. Well, do you want to?
Well, no, she's talking about the nutritional components of being fit. And so besides the physical side of things, what do you do nutritionally to help yourself stay on top?
Well, I'm a big proponent of intermittent fasting. So that's one thing that I think more and more people should really, and I know it's become quite popular, so more people are doing it now, but I think that there's still plenty of people that are not doing it. And I highly recommend trying that at least 3 or 4 times a week. At least the most basic intermittent fast is if you can go for at least 12 hours without eating anything. It's not a dry fast. You can drink water, you can drink herbal teas or, black coffee, things like that, or sparkling water with lemon. The lemon juice is not enough to really, break your fast. But this gives our gut a chance to rest and to repair itself, and to, the gut flora can revive. And it's just such a great, easy and free tool in our toolbox that we can use. And of course, I think most people will do it overnight because, of course, while we're sleeping, we're not eating. And so that helps. But I highly recommend intermittent fasting as one of the very first things that somebody can do to start adapting their bodies. And then nutritionally, there are things we can do to help our gut flora. Like, for example, try and have some sort of fermented food every day. Or, if you drink kombucha, or if you eat some kimchi or some sauerkraut, or incorporate apple cider vinegar into your diet. These are amazing elements that we can incorporate. And again, it doesn't have to be the same thing every day, and it doesn't have to be a lot of it either. Taking walks, the usual cliche thing, when you go to the mall, try and park furthest away if you can, because you can always roll your cart to your car, after you're done shopping.
And take the stairs to the next level, not the escalator if there are stairs.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
That's the thing in the US, we get, I being an American and living in both countries, I live in a third floor walk up. So I walk up and down stairs every day. And sure, it gets annoying sometimes, but every time I do that, every time I come up the stairs, I'm saying, okay, this is good for me. This is good for me. But it's true. It really is. Yeah. And every time you step with one foot, you're carrying your entire body weight to the next step. And then you're stepping with your other foot. And, so all of these things really do accumulate.
Right.
Yeah, I remember those walk-up days. I lived in a fifth floor walk-up in Manhattan for years. It was fun when you're carrying your groceries and your laundry.
Being that we titled this Fitting Fitness In, let's talk about that basic question. How the heck do we fit fitness in when it seems like the day's busy? You may not be somebody who's used to doing that. I think some people who it's been part of their lives, it's just, well, what do you mean? How do I fit it in? How do I fit in brushing my teeth? I just have this time when I do it. But not everybody is in that situation. So what can you suggest to somebody who would really, they know they should fit it in, but how do they do that? I mean,
well, aside of the nutritional elements, which of course fitness and nutrition are always so intricately entwined, as they should be. But even yesterday, I just had a little conversation with a friend who is incredibly busy teaching, and she starts her classes early. And during the pandemic, she was running when she could finally go out of the house. So I suggested a Tabata set, which is could be 4 minutes, 5 minutes, literally. Take 2 exercises, one upper body, one lower body. Do squats and push-ups, or if you had a kettlebell, do kettlebell swings and burpees or lunges. And just literally, and there are apps for this as well. So if you go to Tabata, T-A-B-A-T-A, Tabata timers, you can download an app for that and program how many reps you want to do. So you'll do, for example, 20 seconds on of the exercise. So for example, if you're doing push-ups and squats, let's keep it easy. So 20 seconds of push-ups, as many as you can do, whether they're girly push-ups or regular push-ups, and then take a 10-second rest, and then do 20 seconds of squats, and do 4 minutes of that. Just do 20 on, 10 seconds off, on and off. You're gonna feel it by the end of 4 minutes. This is gonna get your heart rate up. And then, if you have more time, of course, go for longer if you can, or mix it up with a couple of different exercises. But that's the most basic thing you can do. As long as you're getting movement and blood flow in your lower body and upper body, multiple joint exercises and just incorporating your entire body. If you really don't have much time, this is a great way to get you going in the morning. Or if you don't have time in the morning, do it before you eat lunch, if you can,
I think if you're talking,
sorry.
If you're talking about 4 or 5 minutes as a start, I don't know if there's anybody who could say, nope, sorry, don't have it. Right?
Yeah.
That's becomes a bit of a flimsy excuse. Then you start wondering as well, maybe we need to address your mindset, because it's not the time you have. You've got the time to take 5 minutes.
Or 10. Everybody can take 10 minutes of their day for themselves. And we all have to see the athlete in each one of us, whether you're a musician who's just trying to maintain whatever you need so that you can move your fingers and move your arms and your legs or whatever, you don't have to be a musician, even though this is based on your whole program for musicians. But we all have to take charge of being fit in whatever ways that speaks to us. You spoke about intermittent fasting. Some people may say, I don't know if I can really do that. 800 calories a day for 12 or 16 hours. It's really so many of us, I don't know, we do it naturally almost. And then we just have to increase the hours a little bit more. But then there are other things that we can do as well. And, Dawn and I are part of a business that basically has a product that helps you do that within 24 hours.
Right.
So
Absolutely.
anyway.
Yeah, and we should talk about that because that's a great product, and it combines so many of the supplements that I always recommend to my clients and to my friends. I mean, anyone who asks, there are certain supplements, certain nutrients that we should be getting absolutely every day. And the product that you are promoting is absolutely a wonderful product that combines so many of these things.
And we're basically very committed we want to be sure that we have health on a cellular level. Are our cells performing at optimum? Speaking about optimum performance, what about our cells? What about the ability for the body to produce its own antioxidants like it's supposed to be able to, mitochondrial health and so forth. So these are kind of foundational for anything else we're going to do. So that's certainly something that we work with. And we know that you, Roxanne, are very aware of that side of things too. So go ahead.
I was just going to say one thing. Two things. On the cellular level, this is one of the benefits of intermittent fasting because of autophagy, where, and the longer that we can fast for, whether 12 hours, I think, is a minimum. And I'm quite used to doing this myself already. Even if I'm not actively intermittent fasting, I just have
it happens.
It happens. Yeah. Your body gets accustomed to this and your body gets happy, I think. But the longer we go, and there's so many experts online and doctors who, I'm not a doctor, but doctors who can explain this in far more detail, the benefits of, longer fasts, that how it changes, the processes, the cellular processes in our bodies, the longer we go for a fast, whether it's 8, as we say, 16 hours or 8-hour feeding window or 24, whatever people end up doing. And the other thing I was going to say is that I just want to maybe correct one thing, Mia, which is in an intermittent fast, we're not eating only 800 calories. In other words, we have a shorter feeding window, but we should be eating a normal amount of calories. Of course, intermittent fasting means that we just don't eat for a longer time and then we ingest those calories in a lesser amount of time. But if somebody is looking to lose weight, then of course there should be a caloric deficit, so that, because it is about, to some degree, it absolutely is about calories in, calories out.
Whatever they do, they just want to be sure it's sustainable. It's something that they don't just do once, and they can, be consistent about it. That's the key.
We like to respect people's time with these chats on Thursdays and try to limit them to 25 minutes to 30 minutes. And we're kind of, unfortunately, at that point now. It always comes quickly. We never like to end them, but it's really great to talk with you, Roxanne. And I think, we would all encourage people. Roxanne works with musicians specifically, but to take one little step to fit fitness in, even if it's just a little walk, maybe if you can try what Roxanne has talked about, a 12-hour intermittent fast, see how that makes you feel. Just doing little things to get started. And Roxanne, I just wanted to let people know that if probably most people watching this aren't musicians, but Roxanne works especially with musicians. Do you ever work with other people? Is it pretty much focused on musicians?
I'm happy to work with anyone, to be honest. Certainly, as a one-on-one trainer, I can work with anybody, and I'm happy to. It just so happens that because of my own personal circle of friends and acquaintances, and the channels on social media where I've been mostly promoting this whole project, it just so happens that the people I work with are musicians. And but yeah, but
if you do want
to call me, I'm happy to.
If anyone wants to learn more about what Roxanne does, or even connect with her, please drop a comment in the chat in any of these platforms that we're on. And also, as we mentioned briefly, we are working with a very exciting natural kind of activation technology that enables our cells to do what they're made to do and to enable us to do more of what's meaningful to us. us. And so we'd be happy to share more of that with you. We're all here to help you be more healthy, active, and to thrive in life. So Roxanne, thank you so much for joining us today. Thanks to our audience for being here, and look for us each week on Thursdays at noon East Coast US time for these Thriving Thursday chats. Thanks so much, Roxanne.
Thank you, Roxanne.
Thank you, Don and Mia. It's been a pleasure. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.